හරිම සුමුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9 this Wednesday, the 24th of January 2024. Online regulated. Online platforms to be regulated as the Parliament passes the Online Safety Bill today amidst mass protests. NIC for tin. Government aims to use data with the Department of Registration of Persons to issue tin numbers for all above 18 years of age, integrating with the NIC. Health arrests. Former Secretary to the Ministry of Health, Janaka Chandragupta, and 6 others have been further remanded till the 1st of February.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දිනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
This is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and a warm welcome to today's edition of AdaDerana's English News. It's First at 9. This is Jonathan Benedict. Let's take a look at our top story for the evening. It's all online. Amidst an uproar in Parliament, the controversial Online Safety Bill to regulate online digital content was passed in Parliament with amendments today. The second reading of the bill was passed by a majority of 46 votes, as a total of 108 parliamentarians voted in favour, while 62 voted against the bill. During the debate, the opposition accused the government of not complying with the Supreme Court determination issued on the bill in not including the Supreme Court amendments. According to the government, the bill is designed to battle cybercrimes, including child abuse, data theft and online fraud.
අපේ රටේ සාමාන්‍ය මරණාධාර සමිතියකුණක් තියෙන ව්‍යවස්ථාව. ඒ වගේම නීති රාමුවක් තියෙනවා. ඒක කටයුතු කරන විදිහක් තියෙනවා. හැබැයි සමාජ මාධ්‍යයට විතරක් එහෙම පූර්ණ නිදහසක් ලැබෙන්න පුළුවන් කමක් නැහැ. ආගමට ඇති වෙන්න ගහනවා.
Meta, Google, Apple, Line, Amazon මේ ඔක්කොම ජාත්‍යන්තර platforms අයි වෙනවා කියලා. දැන් තමුන්නාන්සේලා රට බංගලොත් කරලා ලෝක වටේ හිඟා කකා යනවා. ඒ යනකොට මේ ජාත්‍ය මේ වගේ සංවිධාන තරහ කරලා යන්න පුළුවන්. ඔව් මම පිළිගන්නවා වෛරී ප්‍රකාශ වැරදි තොරතුරු මත පදනම් වුණු විවිධ ප්‍රවෘත්ති සහ තොරතුරු ඒවා පිළිබඳව යම් නීතිමය ක්‍රියාවලියක් තියෙන්නට ඕන ඒවා නියාමනය කරන්න. සත්‍ය හෙළිදරව් කරන්න. හැබැයි ඒක ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්නට යෙදුණු ආකාරය මේ රජයේ කටයුතු කරන්නේ ආඥාදායකත්වයේ ඒකාධිපතිත්වය රජ කරවීමේ අරමුණින් තමයි ඒ රජය මේ ආකාරයෙන් ක්‍රියාත්මක වන්නේ. මේ පනත මගින් ඇමතිවරයට හිමි වෙනවා අත්නෝමතික බලතල. ඒ වගේ මේ පනත මගින් සැබෑ වින්දිතින් ආරක්ෂා නොවන තත්ත්වයක් නිර්මාණය වෙනවා.
ව්‍යාජ දත්ත භාවිතා කරමින් සමාජ මාධ්‍ය පරිහරණය කරන ලෝකේ පළවෙනි රට ලංකාව. 2 මියන්මාරේ 3 ඉරාකේ. දැන් අපි ගත්තොත් ජනතා විමුක්ති පෙරමුණේ. තනි කරම මේ රැල්ල හදලා තියෙන සමාජ මාධ්‍ය තුල.
IT Professionals for People කියන ආයතනය අද හැන්දෑවේ එකට ඉදිරිපත් කරලා තියෙන ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදී මත විමසුම. මේ මත විමසුමේ 98% මේ රටේ මිනිස්සු මේකට විරුද්ධයි. අපේ ආණ්ඩුවක් හැදුවොත් මේ නීතිය ඉවත් කරනවා. ඒක කෙලින්ම කියනවා. අපේ ආණ්ඩුවක් හැදුවාම මේ නීතිය ඉවත් කරනවා.
භාෂණයේ නිදහස කියලා ඕන කෙනාට ඕන විදිහට මේක පාවිච්චි කරන්න ඉඩ දෙන්න බෑ. මේකට ගේන්න ඕන නියාමනයක්. මේකට ගේන්න ඕන නීතියක්.
The narrative that the government is putting out that the main intent of this bill is for the protection of vulnerable communities is a complete lie. It is very clear that the one and only intention of this government is to suppress dissent at a time when an election is due in a few months. But I want you to think about this. Think about the damage that you're causing in your petty interests, in your petty efforts to maintain power at any cost. Think of the damage you're doing to this country. Think of the reputation of this country internationally. Think of the damage you're doing to potential investors, to the environment to attract investors to this country. All of these issues cannot be secondary for the petty interests of the utterly selfish efforts of this government to remain in power at all costs.
Later, a vote was held for the second reading of the bill, and a total of 108 parliamentarians voted in favour, while 62 voted against, thereby passing the second reading with a majority of 46 votes. However, a tense situation ensued during the committee stage as opposition parliamentarians accused the government of not complying with the Supreme Court determination in introducing amendments to the online safety bill.
There are a number of matters that are directly contradictory to the Supreme Court's determination. There is at page 59 of the determination, the Supreme Court has said there must be exemptions, certain exemptions from the applicability of this act. Now that has not been included in your committee stage amendments. Very specifically, SMS messages, MMS messages that are only user-generated content enabled by the service. It's at page 59 of the determination. And the court has said those must be exempted from the applicability of this act. That doesn't appear in the suggested committee stage amendments put forward by the government. You would have had to draft a new clause for this exemption.
When this was taken up at the sectoral oversight committee, Chair didn't take steps to consider government sections by section perusal. As a result of that, this has not been looked into the way it should be looked into. That is why there is an absence of a report. That is why we raised the issue that you cannot take this matter up without a report from the sectoral oversight committee. Now we are facing the issues.
Your amendments don't comply with the Supreme Court's determination. It's a very serious issue because if you pass this law without complying with that, it won't be law.
Now this is the very reason why we wanted the debate adjourned, for us to discuss this a little more seriously. Now I know the predicament of the government. Now you want to, rather than rushing through contravening the Supreme Court's determination, now that Honorable Sumandran, who led the debate in the Supreme Court, has pointed out all these lacunas. So it's humanly not possible for the government to consider all this across the floor and decide. There is a procedure laid down by Parliament where you can refer it to a standing committee. It doesn't take very long.
නීතිපතිතුමා සහ නීතික සම්පාදකගේ එකඟතාවය සහ අනුමැතිය ඇතිව තමයි මේ සංශෝධන ඉදිරිපත් කරලා තියෙන්නේ ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණයේ අර්ථ නිරූපණයට එකඟව. Honorable Sumandiran has made a very serious submission. He has factual details to prove that there is a gross contradiction between the government's amendment and the Supreme Court determination. This is no, that's what he's saying. What do you mean no?
There are exemptions.
That's a fact. So, Honorable Speaker, it is incumbent upon us to make those necessary amendments according to the Supreme Court decision.
But the government is not agreeable with that. So that is what they say.
Later, opposition parliamentarians came to the centre of the chamber and expressed their objection during the committee stage.
You go to your place, you go there. So I am reading this amendment.
However, amidst the objections, Sri Lanka's online safety bill was passed in Parliament with the amendments.
මාර්ගගතකම වල සුරක්ෂිත භාවය පිළිබඳ 50 කෙටුම් පත් තුන්වෙනි වර කියවා සංශෝධන සහිතව සම්මත කරන ලද බව දන්වනු කැමැත්තෙමි.
While that was happening in Parliament, a protest was launched near the Parliament roundabout in Poldua, demanding the withdrawal of the online safety bill, which was taken up for debate in Parliament. Disregarding a court order that was issued preventing demonstrators from blocking roads and inconveniencing pedestrians, the protesters carried out their demonstrations. This comes against a backdrop where the New York-based organization Human Rights Watch stated that the online safety bill would seriously threaten the right to freedom of expression.
A protest was organised by the Socialist Youth Union today near the Parliament roundabout in Poldua against the online safety bill, which was taken up for debate in Parliament. The police who arrived at the scene presented a court order issued by the Colombo Chief Magistrates Court to the protesters. The court order stated that the protesters should not block any road and cause any inconvenience to the general public or pedestrians using the road or acting with aggression or violence. The order was issued earlier this morning following a request made by the OIC of the Valikada police based on information received that the protest was staged to take place by blocking the main entry road to the Parliament, which would prevent access to the Parliament. However, the protesters, disregarding the court order, continued their demonstrations demanding the withdrawal of the online safety bill.
මෙච්චර
මෙච්චර රට ආර්ථික අර්බුදයෙන් තියදී නැව් ඇතුලේ ජවුසන් දාද්දි ඒක මාස්ටර් මීඩියා වලින් එළියට ආවේ නෑ. ඒක ඇතුලේ හිටපු පුද්ගලයෙක් ඒක සෝෂල් මීඩියා වලින් එළියට දැම්මා. හැබැයි ඒක ඇතුලේ තමයි සමාජය දැනුවත් වුණේ යකෝ මුන් මෙච්චර කෙලවලත් මෙච්චර විනාශ කළත් කිසි අවුලක් නැතුව පාටි දානවා කියලා. ඒක නිසා අපිට තේරෙනවා මේ සමාජ මාධ්‍ය ජාලා වර්ධනය කරන්න එන්නේ මොකටද කියලා. මේක සම්මත වුණාට පස්සේ මොකද වෙන්නේ? රනිල්ට රූකඩ පස් දෙනෙක්ගේ කමිටුවක් දානවා. ඒ රූකඩ පස් දෙනා තමයි රනිල්ට ඕන විදිහට අපි මොනවද දාන්න ඕනේ, අපි මොනවද කියන්න ඕනේ කියලා තීන්දුව වෙන්නේ. අපි බලපෑම් කරනවා, අපි අභියෝග කරනවා. පුළුවන් නම් පාර්ලිමේන්තුව ඇතුලේ මේක සම්මත කරගෙන එළිය දේශපාලනට එන්න.
Meanwhile, Human Rights Watch, a New York-based organization conducting research and advocacy on human rights, commented on the proposed online safety bill. The entity stated that the law would seriously threaten the right to freedom of expression as Sri Lanka prepares for parliamentary and presidential elections later this year. In the meantime, the Sri Lanka Association of Software and Service Companies, Federation of Information Technology Industry Sri Lanka, the Computer Society of Sri Lanka and British Computer Society have raised concerns pertaining to the proposed online safety bill. In a joint statement issued today, the entities claim that certain provisions governing online platforms and social media networks libel were impractical and risked an economic setback for Sri Lanka. The statement further added that the IT and BPM industry stakeholders stated that the proposed bill may impose a significant financial burden on the industry. The entities pointed out that potential violations of ICCPR resulted through the proposed online safety bill could tarnish Sri Lanka's IT and BPM industry's reputation internationally and went on to emphasize the need for alignment with accepted regulations.
Moving on to other news, State Minister of Finance Ranjith Siambalapitiya says that in order to streamline the registration process for a tax identification number file, the government intends to employ the database with the Department of Registration of Persons and register all those above 18 years of age in bulk. The minister further said that the taxpayer identification number can be issued by integrating it with the national identification number, which will ensure that the government will have a clear matrix of data that can be used to track government revenue. To obtain a taxpayer identification number, which is mandatory for any individual above the age of 18, the Inland Revenue Department has introduced two options, which are the online registration process through the department website or post or by visiting the Inland Revenue Department. Any person willing to register as a taxpayer online can visit the department website www.ird.gov.lk and click the e-services link before accessing the e-services tab. To register via post or by physically visiting the Inland Revenue Department, meanwhile, the department states that the application form for registration has to be completed and handed over to the primary registration unit of the second floor of the IRD head office or any nearest regional or metropolitan office. The IRD stated that the application form for registration may be downloaded from the website.
ටින් අංකය ලබා ගැනීම ජනතාවට තවත් අලුත් බරක් විය යුතු නැහැ කියන එක ඉතා පැහැදිලිව රජය ඉන්නවා. අවශ්‍යයට දැනට මේ යන ක්‍රමයට ටින් අංකය ලබා ගන්න අතරේ සාමාන්‍ය ජනතාවට වඩාත් පහසුවෙන් ලබා දීම කෙරෙහි ඊයේ දීර්ඝ සාකච්ඡාවක් පැවැත්වුණා ජනාධිපති ලේකම් කාර්යාලයේ. මේ විශේෂයෙන්ම අපේ අවධානය යොමු වුණේ රාජ්‍ය ආයතන රාශියක තියෙනවා රටේ ජනතාවගේ ජීවදත්ත තොරතුරු ඒකරාශී කරපු පද්ධතියක්. මෙන්න මේ පද්ධතිය පාවිච්චි කරලා භාවිතා කරලා ජනතාවට අපහසුයක් නැතුව මේ අංකය ලබා දීම. ඉතින් මේකේ සමහර ආයතනවල තොරතුරු ලබා ගැනීමේ නීතිමය බාධකත් තියෙනවා. එතෙන්දී අපි විශේෂ අවධානය යොමු වුණේ පුද්ගලයන් ලියාපදිංචි කිරීමේ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ තියෙන දත්ත පද්ධතිය කෙරෙහි 18ට වැඩි පුරවැසියන් බැලුවොත් මිලියන 14ක් 15ක් විතර. ඒ ප්‍රමාණයම දත්තයන් පුද්ගලයන් ලියාපදිංචි කිරීමේ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුව සතු තියෙනවා. නිසා ඔවුන්ගේ දත්ත ලබාගෙන තොග වශයෙන් මේ බදු ලියාපදිංචිය ලබා bulk registration මේක තමයි පහසු ක්‍රමය. එතෙන්දී අපිට වැදගත්ම දේ මේ ලියාපදිංචිය ඒ ක්‍රමයට යනකොට පුද්ගල හැඳුනුම්පතේ තියෙන අංකයම භාවිතා කරලා මේ ලියාපදිංචි කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඊපස්සේ අපි යන ඩිජිටල් හැඳුනුම්පතට යෑමේ අපේ තියෙන බලාපොරොත්තුවක් ඒකත් එක්ක ඉතාම පැහැදිලි දත්ත පද්ධතියක් රට තුළ නිර්මාණය වෙනවා රාජ්‍ය ආදායම සම්බන්ධව. පළවෙනිම කාරණාව ජනතාවට මේක අනවශ්‍ය අපහසුතාවයක්, අනවශ්‍ය වේලාව වැය කිරීමක්, අනවශ්‍ය බරක් නොවි මේ කාරණා විශ්ල කර ගැනීම.
Now, in a bid to encourage support for the Yuktiya police operation among the citizenry, the police today announced an initiative to award cash prizes for those who provide accurate information that leads to the apprehension of illegal firearms. The identities of those who provide information will remain anonymous. A total of 930 arrests were made under the Yuktiya operation over the past 24 hours.
Sri Lanka police announced an initiative to reward those providing accurate information in support of the Yuktiya police operation, which was launched to curb the island-wide distribution of narcotics. Accordingly, those who will provide information on illegal firearms will be awarded with cash prizes per directives of the Acting Inspector General of Police. The identities of those who provide information will remain anonymous and rewards are to be dispensed based on the type of firearm. As such, informants providing information pertaining to T56, AK-47 and T-81 firearms will be awarded 250,000 rupees as a prize. Individuals providing information on semi-automatic firearms, including pistols, will be awarded 250,000 rupees, and 150,000 rupees will be provided for those who deliver information that leads to the apprehension of revolvers. In the related news, 930 suspects have been arrested under the Yukti operation over the 24-hour cycle which ended at 12:30 a.m. today.
A suspect in connection to the recent mass shooting at the Beliatta interchange of the Southern Expressway was arrested by the police today. Meanwhile, the Colombo High Court today granted the death penalty to 7 suspected fishermen accused of murdering 3 individuals and fatally injuring another 2 on a multi-day fishing vessel in seas off Tangol in October of 2012. With that, here's a look at more news from across the island in brief.
A suspect was arrested over his alleged complicity in the recent killing of 5 persons at the Beliatta interchange of the Southern Expressway in Hambantota district. According to the police, the arrest was made in the Mathur area today, while the vehicle used by the assailants in the shooting incident was recovered near the Vidyaloka Piriveni in Galle, following the interrogation of the suspect. Further, the 55-year-old arrestee is believed to be the driver of the vehicle used by the gunman and is also suspected of having orchestrated the recent mass shooting. Investigations into the shooting are currently underway. Meanwhile, the Colombo High Court today granted the death penalty to 7 suspected fishermen accused of murdering 3 individuals and fatally injuring another 2 in a multi-day fishing vessel on the seas off Tangol in October 2012. In addition to the 3 high charges for which the death penalty was imposed, the defendants were also sentenced to 29 years of imprisonment with hard labour for the other 6 high charges. The court also ordered the defendants to pay a fine of 2,08,500 rupees each. The 7 fishermen were sentenced to death after a period of 12 years during which the trial was critically examined. 7 suspects, including the former Secretary to the Ministry of Health, Janaka Chandragupta, have been further remanded until the 1st of February over the controversial procurement of substandard human immunoglobulin. The relevant order was issued by the Maliga Kanda Magistrates Court when taken up in court this morning. The magistrate also ordered that all responsible parties be arrested and produced before the court irrespective of their positions for the administration of justice over providing substandard medicine to the public. An Iranian national engaged in drug trafficking was apprehended by the Kasbah police following a tip received by the police. During the arrest, 160 grams of kush worth more than 1.5 million rupees recovered at his residence were seized by police. In other local news, a person employed as a rugby coach in one of the main schools in Kandy was arrested by the Alawatugoda police with narcotics in possession. According to the police, 2 grams of heroin and 4,100 capsules belonging to the 22-year-old suspect were recovered by police.
Welcome back. In a move towards enhancing sustainable development, the United Nations Development Programme in Sri Lanka and the UN Global Compact Network of Sri Lanka recently renewed their commitment via the signing of a 3rd Memorandum of Understanding. The UNDP in a statement said that the agreement aims to join efforts in facilitating private sector participation and promoting sustainable development in Sri Lanka. Further, through the collaboration with Network Sri Lanka, businesses and non-businesses will be encouraged to conduct responsible business practices to advance sustainable development goals in key areas such as governance, climate resilience, digitalization, innovation, sustainable finance, and gender equity. The statement further added that this strategic partnership reflects the joint commitment of the UNDP and Network Sri Lanka to promote innovation and responsible business practices whilst working towards achieving the ambitious goals outlined in the 2030 Agenda. The Colombo Stock Exchange continued its downward spiral for a 12th straight day to end lower, weighed down by losses in industrial and consumer staple stocks. The CSE All-Share Index closed 0.05% down at 10,274.39 points, while the S&P SL20 closed 0.07% higher at 2,903.39 points. LOLC Finance PLC and CT Holdings PLC were the top losers on the index, falling 2.3% and 4.1% respectively. Trading volume on the index fell to 18.5 million shares from 29.8 million shares in the previous session. Equity market turnover fell to 583.8 million rupees from 700.1 million rupees in the previous session. The capital goods sector was the top contributor to market turnover today, while the banking sector was the second highest contributor. Foreign investors were net sellers, offloading stocks worth 126.3 million rupees, while domestic investors were net buyers, purchasing shares worth 486.1 million rupees. We now have Niroshan De Silva from Capital Alliance Limited with some thoughts on the current status of the country's economy in our next segment, Sri Lanka's Economic Outlook.
Starting with the weekly average weighted prime lending rate, we observed a decline of 9 basis points last week, settling at 11.78%. Dr. Veerasinghe during yesterday's monetary policy review highlighted that inflation might increase up to 7% in January, driven by factors like recent VAT hike and other external influences such as adverse weather impact on vegetable prices. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka is optimistic about private credit, expecting a growth of 100 billion rupees in December 2023. This follows a positive trend seen in November, where we witnessed a noteworthy 63 billion rupees expansion, indicating signs of economic recovery. Shifting gears to market liquidity, there was a deficit of 79.3 billion rupees by January 19 compared to the deficit of rupees 53.3 billion rupees recorded a week before. Now let's turn our attention to the stock market. The all share price index experienced a marginal drop of 0.05 points, settling at 10,274 today. Meanwhile, the S&P SL20 index saw a slight increase of 0.07 points, reaching 2,903 points. Market turnover, however, remained on the lower side. In the treasury bill auction held yesterday, the government successfully raised 130 billion rupees. Notably, rates dropped by 56 and 42 basis points for the 3 and 6 months bills respectively, contributing to a unique reversal in the yield curve, with the 3 months rates falling below the 6 months rate for the first time in 18 months. However, the 12 months T-bill rates experienced only a 14 basis points decrease. On the tourism front, Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau is gearing up for a 1.5 billion rupees promotional campaign in 11 key markets starting in March, aiming to boost arrivals. Speaking of which, more than 120,000 tourists have already arrived in Sri Lanka in the first 18 days of 2024.
Now let's take a look at how the rupee traded against other major currencies as the day progressed. A harbourfront luxury condominium project developed by Access Engineering plc and the China Harbour Engineering Company recently announced the successful structural completion of the project. Meanwhile, DFCC Bank proudly unveiled the DFCC Freelancer, providing comprehensive and tailored financial solutions for freelancers. With that, let's take a look at today's corporate news segment for the day.
Marina Square, a harbourfront luxury condominium project developed by Access Engineering plc and China Harbour Engineering Company, announced the successful structural completion of the project. Commemorating the significant event, an exclusive discount on selected harbourfront units have been announced till the 30th of January. Additionally, this exclusive offer gives prospective homeowners with the unprecedented opportunity to become part of the Marina Square lifestyle at an attractive price point. In the meantime, providing a comprehensive and tailored financial solutions for freelancers, DFCC Bank proudly unveiled DFCC Freelancer. This initiative will provide individuals who use registered, specialized platforms to provide specialized services, often to international clients, with a comprehensive banking solution. DFCC Freelancer also provides a tailor-made DFCC MasterCard credit card with convenient easy payment plans. In other corporate news, the Maxis Award Night 2023 was held recently at the Monarch Imperial Sri Jayawardhanapura with the participation of nearly 250 Maxis dealers in the country. H.K. Lakshman, the director of Ravindra Lanka Auto Service Private Limited Dehiwala, and its managing director Ravindra Prematilaka secured the Maxis winner for the 2023 year trophy. Coming in second and third places were UNH Wheel Services Private Limited and Kurunagala Amila Benayaka Company Private Limited respectively.
That wraps up my bulletin for this evening. Join us again tomorrow on Sri Lanka's premier news channel. For now, this is Jonathan Benedict wishing you a blessed and restful Thursday ahead, which is a poya. For now, good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.